Hey everybody, welcome to today's video. As always, it's so awesome to see you. Thanks so much for stopping by. So today's topic is how to choose the right drum setup for you. This topic came about because I have been rehearsing my newest song this past week. Yes, new music, hopefully soon. Hooray! And initially I decided that I wanted to keep this 10 and 12 and 16-inch floor tom setup. But as I've been rehearsing the parts, the lower end is kind of getting a little lost in the equation. So I'm going to add some punch to it. And I am likely going to change out these two toms. I'm going to do an 8 and a 10 and a 16. And when I started thinking about this, and it happens on occasion, it's like I have this voice in the back of my head going, whoa, 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 whoa. Going from a 10-inch tom to a 16-inch floor tom, that's quite the spread. That's going to be a little bit odd. And I've been trying to figure out where this voice comes from. And I think it's just because I'm getting older. I've been playing drums for over 40 years. And you know, back when I started playing, the standard configuration was a 12, a 13, and a 16. And so there wasn't that much of a spread between a 13-inch tom and a 16. Jazz, bebop kits, 12-inch tom and a 14-inch floor tom, 2 inches. It would have been inconceivable to introduce a 10-inch tom jumping to a 16-inch floor tom. But trends change. And, there are some people like Benny Greb, superstar, who's been utilizing a 10-inch tom and a 16-inch floor tom to great success. So I thought it would be fun today to kind of cover the topic of how do drummers go about choosing their setups. And maybe an additional part of it is, what do I think about? What considerations should I have when picking out a drum set? The beginning part of this will likely be geared toward the beginner, and then the end, maybe some things for the rest of us who have been playing for a while to think about. Okay, so let's get Captain Obvious out of the way. Usually the first factor in choosing or purchasing a drum set is going to be cost. Now, back in my day, entry-level drum sets, even back then, were really expensive. But the good news is it's not that way today. You can find some killer drum sets from around, the $500 to $1,000 mark. And even those that are hovering around $500, some of those come with cymbals and stands and everything to get you going. So there are some great deals out there on that front. There's also some awesome deals to find in the used market. Now, one word of caution for those who know nothing about drums, who may be looking into jumping into this venture and buying a used kit. If you know of a drummer, or if you got, or if you can find a drummer somewhere, if you find a set that you're interested in, see if you can take that drummer with you to check out the set. Because sometimes used drums, especially the older ones, they may be missing vital parts. And if you're not exactly sure what to look for, there can be some damage that will haunt you down the road, things like bearing edges or cracks. And sometimes it can be helpful to have a drummer with another set of eyes and ears to kind of help look for those things. The next tier, which I originally, years ago would have labeled the intermediate level, would be from $1,000 to $2,000. But in today's market, more good news, a lot of those drum sets, the majority of which can still be used professionally. They're just making some great drum sets in today's world. If you want to go to the next level of professionalism, chalk on another 1,000 or two. And then there's the boutique market, the boutique builder with all the exotic woods and whatever configuration you want and everything, but they usually charge an exorbitant amount of money. They have their place, but it's just something to be aware of. Again, it all usually boils down to cost, how much you have, how much you're willing to spend, and the good news is you can go shopping because there are some great values at all price points. All right, the second consideration involved in purchasing or choosing a drum set could be about space. If you are new to the drumming world, drum sets can take up quite a bit of room, even smaller like 4-piece sets. So if you are not exactly sure how much space to budget for, you can always go to a music store. They usually have different configurations on the floor, and you can kind of eyeball, maybe even measure out in feet, a square, and just get a general idea of how much room you would need at home or wherever you're going to have them. The third consideration is going to have to do with volume. Yeah, I know it's shocking, but drums are naturally loud, which is one of the reasons we love them, right? People who have never been around drum set though, or drum sets, and have never, actually played one, they may not know just how loud they can be. So it's good to ask, some basic questions before jumping into it, like, where are my neighbors? Where is the set, assuming you're in a home, going to be positioned to where I'm not bugging my neighbors? If you've got an apartment, it would be pretty bold to put an acoustic set with cymbals and stuff in there. You might want to check with your apartment complex. They may have rules against something like that. There's your family to consider. If you've got family members, what are their schedules like? Is there a time that you could consistently practice each day that, it wouldn't bug them too much? There are also things that you can purchase to help offset volume, and they make silent drum heads right now that you can place on the kit. They make cymbals that are created to drastically reduce their volume. There's practice pad drum sets. There are foam pads that you can purchase that you can place on the cymbals or on the drums to reduce the volume level there. And we haven't even really talked about electronic drum sets. Back in my day, and I'm going to keep saying it because I'm an old fart, but by gosh, here we are. But back in the day, electronic drum sets were kind of out of reach for most of us. They were so expensive. But now you can go into the local music store. You can, electronic drum sets can be around $500. Now, I'm not talking about professional quality, but I am talking about something that if you were thinking about learning how to play the drums, it's a great option because it's usually all self-contained, and you can get different sounds, and they can be a lot of fun. And that volume knob, if you're using an amp or if you're using headphones, can keep everybody in the household sane. All right, I wasn't exactly sure what to name this next section, so I'm just going to label it as practicality. Practicality. This section probably has less to do with a beginner at home, playing drums, and maybe more to do with someone who's been playing for a bit, who wants to upgrade their drums and branch out a little bit. I think one of the things that's helpful is to try to get to the heart of the reason for the drum set. Are you planning on just having a set to play at home for fun? Are you planning to have a drum set that you want to gig with, to go and play out live? Are you wanting a drum set to record music? Maybe all three. Each of these can be a factor in helping determine what kind of set that you could get. But there's also just, practical questions to ask in general. Do I really need that 10-piece drum set if most of my gigs are going to be in a small club or a coffee shop? Is it practical to spend all that money on a boutique built kit that's got all these exotic veneers that I plan on taking out to a club, full well knowing that sound men are infamous for dropping mics on drum sets and causing damage? Is it practical to spend all this money on a famous vintage snare drum that I plan on gigging with, full well knowing just how rampant music theft is in the world today? Just practical questions. Now look, practicality isn't everything, true. And sometimes being impractical is fun and the way to go and makes the world go round. But it is just kind of good to think about getting to the heart of the matter. Why do I want this kit, and what purpose is it going to serve? And, that may save some money down the road. The fifth and last consideration for today, and, it's not an exhaustive list by any stretch of the means. I would love it if you would take some time to comment below. If you're a drummer, how did you go about choosing your drum set? Did you receive any advice on how to pick whichever drum set you chose? Perhaps you could help out those who might be thinking about jumping into this craft. So this last consideration is actually a little bit more philosophical in nature, and it has to do with, drummers thinking, do I choose a more conventional set, or do I choose to create something completely different, something that's unique, something that is signature? And I honestly had a whole different script written out for this, many other things to cover, and maybe I'll tackle that in another video. But just in the end, I kept coming back to something that Terry Bozzio once told me, some great advice of his. And if you know Terry, you know that his drum sets over the years are as unique as he is as a player. In the 70s, he was one of the first people to play a hybrid drum set made up of acoustic and electronic drums. I cannot think of a Rototom drum set today without thinking of Terry. Nor can I see any drummer who might have two Chinas front and center because, that really is his hallmark. And in the mid-'80s, Terry really was a pioneer with triggering drums and came up with a completely unique electronic drum set before that whole thing even hit. And then, of course, there is the massive orchestral drum set that he created with Drum Workshop that he's been playing for years as a solo artist. And he's been using that set for his ostinato playing and also his rhythmic compositions. And he and I were talking one day, and I praised him for being a visionary with as a player, but also with his drum sets, and having the balls to be different. And now it makes me feel rather silly when I'm thinking about, should I change out two toms on my kit? Anyway, I asked Terry about his philosophy on drum sets, and I asked him if any one of his drum sets ended up being problematic for him. And I'd like to go ahead and wrap up today's video with his wise words, because in a lot of ways, his answer really is kind of the be-all, end-all answer to this question of how do I choose the right drum set for me? And he said this: play whatever drum set you want to play until a producer or somebody else pays you to play otherwise. Awesome. I hope that you are doing well. Thanks again for joining me today. Until next time, light and love to you all. Take care.